Dharma, take refuge in the Sangha. Good evening, everyone. Last Sunday we did Fusatsu, the full moon ceremony of atonement and reaffirmation of our Buddhist vows. And the Fusatsu ceremony is celebrated around the world on the full moon by Buddhist Sanghas about the time of the full moon. And we perform it approximately quarterly here at Sangha Jewel. The Japanese word fusatsu has been translated as ceremony to continue doing good. Fusatsu. And I find it a beautiful and inspiring ritual for us to do together, including as it does atoning for shortcomings we've done in our lives since the last Fusatsu, and falling short of our vows and doing unwholesome or harmful things because, as it says in the Gata of Atonement, because of our beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, which is part of the human condition. And I also find it beautiful and inspiring because it includes reaffirmation of our vows, not just atonement for our harmful actions, but reaffirmation of our vows. First of all, for our bodhisattva vow to awaken for the sake of all beings, for the benefit of all beings. Reaffirmation also of our vows to uphold the precepts, beginning with the 3 pure precepts: to do no harm, to do good, and to do good for others. And also our vows to continually practice the 10 grave precepts, everything from not killing through not defaming the 3 treasures, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So it's inspiring and beautiful, I think. And this time of the year, with shorter days and longer nights and fewer activities than in spring, summer, and fall, I think it lends itself to reflection on our lives and practice. And in that vein, next weekend on Friday evening and all day Saturday, many of us are going to be participating in a workshop called Investigating Life Vows here at Sangha Jewel, led by Taigen and myself. And this will be a chance to deeply reflect on our deepest aspirations for our lives. Investigation, reflection, introspection, getting in touch with one's own direct experience, that's been highly valued in Buddhism right from the very beginning. And it's been taught in many different ways over the centuries. Buddha teaches in the Kalama Sutta, do not go upon what has been acquired by repeated hearing, nor on tradition, nor upon what is in Scripture, nor upon seeing somebody else's ability, nor upon the consideration the monk is our teacher, or the teacher is our teacher, whatever. But when you yourselves know these things are good, undertaken and observed, these things lead to benefit and happiness. Enter on and abide in them. Buddha Buddha said repeatedly, don't take my word for it, look at this yourself. When you yourselves know, by looking into your own experience, by investigating your own experience. 1700 years later in Japan, Dogen urged his students again and again to investigate for themselves. For example, in the Bendoa, the Wholehearted Way, he wrote, you must understand that Buddha Dharma is to be investigated without holding on to any notion of self or other. So there's the investigation. This whole thing about not holding on to self and other, that's a whole other area. But the investigation is always urged by Dogen. For example, in his Shobogenzo fascicle that's called Continuous Practice, he says, there have been many monks in China since Bodhidharma first came from the West who have continued to rely on understanding of sutras and commentaries and failed to investigate the authentic Dharma. This suggests that the authentic Dharma can only be known by looking into our own life, our own experiences. And in the 20th century, Uchiyama Roshi, who wrote about the importance of investigation in his book, Opening the Hand of Thought. For example, he wrote, by studying Western philosophy academically, you can pretty much learn what it's all about. But Buddhism is another matter. It's virtually impossible to make much sense of it if you don't actually practice it. He says, to investigate and understand Buddhism and Zazen thoroughly, I became a monk. And he also wrote, as long as your heart is actually beating inside you, it is the reality of your life. A power beyond words and ideas is at work. It is this reality of your life, of your birth and death, not definitions of them, that I want to investigate here in his book. And which we want to investigate in the Vows workshop next weekend, where there'll be time devoted to writing about for example, our past accomplishments and the vows that supported them, and also about the deepest intentions, purposes, and directions that we hold for our own lives. We've all accomplished things in our lives, and we have had vows, spoken or unspoken, associated with our accomplishments. Vows are intentions or resolutions that kept us going, kept us on track until we accomplished what we wanted to accomplish. And then those vows helped us focus our attention and keep on track. And I'd like to ask you to take a minute or two to think about one or two of the things of the many things that you've accomplished in your lives. And your own vows, your own resolutions, your own intentions, spoken or written down or just not spoken, that helped you go through them, helped you achieve that. So think about that while I describe a couple of mine as examples. Okay. So by my mid-20s, I bounced around from many different locations and many different jobs, and I wanted more stability. And I decided to apply for an apprenticeship as a union electrician. And that was something that I eventually did for over 20 years professionally. My intention, which I remember saying to myself clearly at the time, was that I wanted to have a way to earn a decent living while I figured out what I really wanted to do with my life. And that was my vow as I pursued that goal. And another example later, we had a couple of children. And I remember reflecting on my experience as a child and my father's interaction, or actually his lack of involvement with his children. And I vowed that I would do a better job being a father than my father did. That was a vow that motivated me through many years of challenges and trials. So those are two vows of mine, help me get through, stay on track through work and family. And I wonder if any of you might be willing to share one of your accomplishments and, your vow, your intention that supported you in following through.
I remember several decades ago, maybe, I was very intentional about deciding what I wanted to be working on for the rest of my life. And one of the things was I wanted to develop a spiritual practice. And we'd been attending church and something like that, but it wasn't quite doing it for me. And so that was a vow I made that eventually led to becoming part of this community, at least for now. And so that's something I had to stick with it, and it's in progress.
Thank you. Anyone else want to share? Kelsey?
Sure. So when I entered graduate school, it was really hard, and I needed to really commit, right? And I remember, and I was living in poverty, and I had a 3x5 card, and I wrote on it, obtain a PhD. And I just put it on my mirror, right? And I just woke up in the morning, I looked at it, put myself together, went down to the lab, did everything I did, came back, looked at it, and collapsed in my bed. I got it.
One more, maybe? 10K?
Yep. I have one that I'm still investigating, in the sense that it hasn't clarified into words, because I've been through a few different difficult periods in life, and there's always been something that just kept me going. And like I said, I can't put words to it, but it's just the routine kept me going through thick and thin. And yeah, there's something mysterious about it.
Thank you all. So our vows workshop, come on in, Michelle. Our vows workshop will be informed in part by the book, The Vow-Powered Life, A Simple Method for Living with Purpose, which was written by Jan Chosen Bays Roshi, who's the abbot of Great Vow Monastery up in Klatskanai, and she's our Dharma grandmother. In the workshop, we'll be investigating life vows, which are different from vows that help us accomplish, important goals as, we step through different stages of our lives and work to accomplish things. And, things like, having a good job or being a good father or getting a PhD or that kind of thing. Although those vows might be supported by life vows for a lot of people. So Chosen Roshi describes a life vow as your heart's deepest aspiration, your deep life purpose. And we'll be investigating those individually, a lot of writing practice and some discussion periods. So life vows may be different from Buddhist vows, or they may be similar to or include Buddhist vows. So in her book, Chosen Roshi tells about an interview once given by her teacher, Taizan Maizumi Roshi, who's our Dharma great-grandfather. The interviewer asks him, Christians believe in a soul that continues after this life. Do Buddhists believe in something permanent that continues after death? And Maizumi Roshi considered this question for a moment, and then he replied, no. He said, rather, we believe in the vow. And Maizumi Roshi was an example of the ongoing power of vow. He was just 26 and he spoke no English in 1956 when he was sent from Japan with a one-way ticket on a steamship to Los Angeles to serve as the temple monk for the Japanese Americans living in LA. But, Chosen writes, he carried a vow to plant the Dharma so firmly in American soil that it would thrive and not die out. He went on to found the Zen Center of LA. And out of that busy center came, both before and after his death, which was in 1995, out of that busy center came a lineage that includes more than 100 authorized Zen teachers serving thousands of students in over 60 Zen centers around the world, including right here at Sangha-Jewel Zen Center. All this from what might have seemed like a foolish vow taken on with great sincerity by a determined young man. But he kept to it. And I don't know if Maizumi Roshi's vow to plant the Dharma in American soil was a formal one that he wrote down, maybe he declared that publicly, or if it was unspoken. Just a very clear intention on his part. Maybe a strongly motivated purpose, maybe just a great hope that he had, which gradually turned into strong determination and clarity. Chosen Roshi writes about several of her own vows, including one that was to establish Great Vow Zen Monastery as a place of peace, beauty, spiritual renewal, and ever-deepening practice for many generations to come. That's one of her vows. This book was written 10 years ago. She was well on the way to fulfilling that vow, and she's still fulfilling that vow now. And another one of her life vows is raising at least several clear, strong students who will continue to give the gift of the Dharma for many generations to come. So, other people may have life vows to protect the natural world, or work for social justice, or feed the hungry, or house the homeless. People like Jane Goodall, Greta Thunberg, Nelson Mandela, Malala You Savzai, and Mother Teresa. And also ordinary people like you and me. So please consider joining us in this vows workshop. Or perhaps getting Chosen's book and working your way through it on your own. Or just dedicating time to look into your own heart, asking, what is my deepest aspiration?